Welcome back to another episode of Hot Take with myself, Terry Flewers, and Mr. Mark Goldbridge. Loads to go through today. Big claims about Arsenal winning the title but being boring. We're asking, is Gary Neville hurting Manchester United? We're looking at the big meltdowns going on currently at Tottenham with the players blaming the fans for their problems. Plus, have Chelsea been scammed when it comes to Alejandro Garnacho? I'm joined, as I've already said, by Mark Goldbridge. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to some Champions League football tonight. Premier League fixtures at the weekend we were talking about yesterday. I think the scheduling them was crap. You know, Man City Bournemouth is the 4:00 game, and then Everton Sunderland sort of killed the weekend on Sunday night, whereas there wasn't much. It's been a bit of a slow start to the week. So getting some Champions League football tonight, and what I think is the two best teams in the world. Sorry, Arsenal fans. Bayern Munich, PSG tonight, as well as Liverpool, Madrid. It's going to be a cracker.
So you think they're up to that level now? But because Bayern Munich last year were just sort of kind of written off a little bit by a lot of people. You think they've gone up to that level again now, Bayern Munich?
Yeah, I think the acquisition of Diaz, I think Elise is one of the best players in Europe. Kane's arguably the best striker in Europe. That's why I think it's an interesting game tonight. I mean, PSG might pump them 4 or 5-0, in which case, and Arsenal are playing Bayern in a few weeks. So I think these two games I'm really looking forward to. Yeah, listen,
I felt a bit like yourself over the course of the weekend. I agree completely. I felt that the scheduling was actually Sky are just stupid. I mean, the TV companies are just stupid. How and when they schedule these shows at the moment. I honestly think they're run by imbeciles, and I don't even mean that in a cruel way. It's just absolutely crazy because even for themselves, right? They make content as well, but they kill it by putting it all on a Saturday. But then you have games on the Sunday, which means people watch it, but they're not overly interested. By the time you get to the Monday, the buzz of the weekend's over. And that brings us to our first clip. A brilliant piece here by Laura Kirk-Francis. Take a look at this, people.
Run through the fixtures for this weekend. TNT Sport, it looks like there's no 12:30. Is that right? No, just couldn't be asked, to be honest. It's just there's quite a lot of teams that didn't play in Europe, so surely this would be a good opportunity to. Just didn't really fancy it. For the 12:30, we have to get up so early. That's why we let them have that package. What are you talking about? We outbid you for it. Okay, whatever. 5:30 then is Brighton away at Man United on Sky. So Avanti, everything good with you? Avanti. Oh, you're talking to me. Oh, sorry. What do you want? I'm just checking that you've got the appropriate amount of trains and crew to support thousands of Brighton fans travelling across the country, paying good money to do so, and with a specific time before which they need to arrive. Yeah, we're good. No worries whatsoever. All good. And no cancelled trains, maybe 1 or 2. And the aircon, just feel like you're asking quite a lot of me, and I'm feeling quite attacked right now, and I'm doing my best. Are you though? No. And what the fuck are you going to do about it? Okay, moving on. 8 p.m, Brentford versus Liverpool. Jesus Christ. TFL, we all good? It is the weekend, though. He's got a point, though. What does that mean? Well, we just like to chill out a little bit on the weekend, you know? Might shut some lines, might not. Who knows? Okay, fine. And then with this late kickoff, can I just check, Avanti, that the Liverpool fans can get home? Feels like a you problem, to be honest. Fine, whatever. Can we look ahead to the Christmas fixtures? Am I right in thinking there's no Boxing Day fixtures? Maybe, maybe not. What does that even mean? We will share the information when we decide the information. Great. Meeting adjourned.
I tell you what, that Boxing Day thing is a disgrace. If you're of a certain age, every Boxing Day of my life, we've had First Division or Premier League fixtures. That's how long it's been going. I remember First Division. And that Man United Newcastle game is not a Boxing Day fixture. It's a Friday 8:00. But they've basically ignored Christmas and gone, we need to do a normal weekend, so we'll do Saturday, and then we'll put a game on Boxing Day, which is actually a Friday 8:00 schedule that we've got to fill anyway. It's an absolute, disgraceful. But look, whilst fans queue up and pay, we all know it. Any business, the Glazers, will sit there and go, morals? What morals? We're milking them. And they'll keep milking it until the day that the milk runs out. We'll keep getting milked. And the problem is football in this country, in this league, we have the worst officiating in Europe. We have a terrible organisation in the Premier League and the PGMOL. And we've now got a terrible brand. like, I can't think of 2 games I've watched this season that I've actually enjoyed. Like, I think the football's shit as well. I thought Chelsea Spurs last weekend is probably the worst big game I've watched in years. It was, and also because the first 20 minutes, I don't think the ball was even in play. And I know the concussion to Bergvall wasn't his fault, but it's piss at the moment.
Yeah, I actually don't mind. I've actually enjoyed a lot of games this year, and I love the closeness.
Easily pleased you.
Yeah, I am. I am, to be honest with you. I am. It's us simpletons. We're very easily pleased. I'm like a dog with a bone. Do you get what I mean? I'm just happy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Chasing my own tail pleases me. I'm very.
You get excited at snow. You're like, I get excited at snow. Terry gets excited at rain. It's raining.
Do you know what? I really do like it when it rains.
I like it. I like being in bed when it rains and thinking I'm in bed.
We should just do a stream once, just laying in bed with the rain.
You've gone too far now.
Yeah, no, on top of the bed. You know what I mean? We'll draw a line. We'll put some pillars down the middle. Do you know what I mean? We'll do that. But no, I don't mind that. But I love this video from Laura because I think it just shows again that you also think about it, the power and size and the money in the Premier League, the £1 billion organisations like TFL and the trains, and it doesn't work for us at all, cost-wise, efficiency-wise. It's one of those things where it shouldn't even be in our minds if a Premier League game is going on, if there's, I even think about it when it comes to things like Wimbledon. Sometimes I have to stop brilliant matches because the tube's going to end. And you think, can't between Wimbledon and the TFL work something out where you don't shut as early because the Wimbledon's on? It just feels like it's a simple thing to organize. But yeah, no, I get you. But the Premier League games in Mama, they are special on the football matches on Boxing Day are special.
It'll be weird this year. It'll be weird. I mean, look, we get Man United, but it's an 8 o'clock game. Is you get the day, but it's going to be weird. Well, big up the Championship, and they'll benefit from it. But I think it's disgraceful. I always get to a point on Christmas Day night where I go, it's been a great day. I'm partly lying to myself because it won't always be a great day. And I think, you get to about 10 o'clock, you just pour yourself the last whiskey, you put a film on and you think, tomorrow, football's back. And we're not going to have that this year.
It's funny, I always look at football fans that go, there's more to life than just football. And I'm like, listen, there is. No one's saying there isn't. But, we get a lot of stick in this country, right, about not having culture and tradition. But football matches on Boxing Day are decades and decades and decades old traditions, which many families have enjoyed together. Mine, for 40 years, my family have enjoyed Boxing Day. You do certain things, but the games that were on, and they weren't as televised when we were younger, but it'd be Match of the Day would be on, but you'd be keeping up to date with it. The radio would be on in the background when there wasn't games on TV. It is part of our culture, and to remove it, I find it wrong. And I'm not getting into any weird flag shagging territory here. I'm just talking about something I like and enjoy, and I wouldn't want it removed. It's part of Christmas for me is the football fixtures, the same as the cold turkey sandwich in the evening, as you say, with a glass of whiskey. I ain't done that since I was a kid, but do you know what I mean? It's steak and kidney pie and Bovril Xmas Day. I've never had a Bovril
on Christmas Day.
Yeah, that's a bit weird, actually. Yeah, twisted.
One of my builders actually said to me the other day, last year, they just booked a curry and went out for a curry on Christmas Day. And I went, But then again, that's like not having Boxing Day fixtures. It's not tradition. So
yeah, I couldn't. Do you know what? Like, there are people who don't have friends and family and they're alone at Christmas that might do something along those lines. I'm not saying your builder was, but so I'm not judging overly, but if I could help it, like I don't think Christmas would feel like there's certain things on Christmas Day, like obviously presents in the morning. I've got friends that don't do presents until the evening. I find that strange, but get up, presents in the morning, a little bit of Bucks Fizz, you have your lunch around 1-2 o'clock, King or Queen speech, bit of comedy on, a few drinks. I mean, still, I feel weird that there's no Only Fools and Horses on Christmas. I still try and put one on at some point in the day.
Yeah,
but then Christmas ain't Christmas unless someone dies at Albert Square. I mean, there's certain things that I just feel are kind of part of tradition. But let us know what your Christmas traditions are in the comment section, please, people. We'd love to know what you think. What is the one thing, aside from dinner, or maybe dinner, is quintessential, has to be there when it comes to the Christmas fixtures? and Christmas for you. Wizard of Oz. That's a great shout, to be fair. That's a great shout. Moving on. I'm going to play a clip here. What am I going to go to first? I'll tell you what we'll go to. This one here.
To compare him to Benjamin Šeško, they both came in at the same time, different ages, of course, and different profiles. How was he today?
Yeah, I'm no further forward with him in respect to the jury's out. I think he's well off it compared to the other signings that United have made up front in Cunha and Mbeumo. He looks awkward. He had a couple of really good opportunities in the first half where balls just got played over and his touch wasn't right. And yeah, I think for £80 million, I mean, you can say he's young, he's got a lot of potential, he's only settling in, but you still want to see a little bit more.
This obviously got a lot of stick, Mark, from Gary. People saying that, like, saying he's been well off it is an exaggeration. You know, Gary's been quite protective of Wirtz and Isak and Gyökeres and all the other either new to the Premier League or big money signings this summer, but feel that he's being really harsh on Šeško. Did it last week when he actually played well when he came on against Brighton. And there's sort of claims that Gary Neville doing this is sort of hurting Man United. It's too much pressure, it's too much negativity, and it's not really needed. What's your views on what he said, first of all?
I mean, the only issue I have with it is that he's 67 million, he's not 80 million pounds. I have seen, to be honest, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and maybe it's a slow week for content, but I have seen some content creators absolutely go in on him. And I'm like, you're the same people who said Amrim out after Grimsby. And they're saying Neville's doing damage to Man United. I'm like, the hypocrisy of these people is hilarious. So a man has opinion on a striker he probably doesn't rate is worse than get this fraud out of my club after Grimsby. And that's sort of like where I jump in and go, you know, I don't agree with Neville's assessment on Šeško, but having listened to it there again for the 5th time, I don't actually see an issue with it. Like, it's an opinion. And we've got to be very, very careful about that, because as two people and a community that love debate and opinion, I don't actually, if you sat there and said that to me and it wasn't Gary Neville, I don't think I could come at you and go, you're a fucking idiot, Terry, what are you talking about? Because there's actually no abuse in there. There's actually nothing other than, I think the jury's out. I don't think he's as, it clearly doesn't probably, he's not sure about Šeško. He's clearly not sure about Šeško. And whether it's Gary Neville or it's Terry or it's me, you're allowed to say that. You know, I do not like Luke Shaw and Casemiro in the Man United side, and some people really do. But you're not going to change my opinion on it. So I actually think some people are blowing it out of proportion because maybe it's a slow week. The Šeško to me is going to be a good signing for Manchester United, but I can't guarantee it. I like the signing. I think he's going to have a period of adaptation. And I think all I would say to Gary is that, okay, I take on board the Šeško comment. I don't actually think it's that relevant because we're not really servicing him yet, and he's going to take a little bit of time. But you are one of the greatest right backs we've ever had at Man United. What do you think about Delot, who was horseshit for the 4th game in a row? I'd rather get his opinion on Delot because he was a great fullback for Man United. So I think that the Šeško thing, I understand why people are getting a bit irritated by it, but when you break it down, he's not actually doing anything other than basically saying, I'm not quite sure about him. He doesn't go, he's a flop. He doesn't say he's fucking shit. He just says, I don't think at the moment I'm not convinced about him, which you can say. You know, sometimes I think we try and castigate opinion. And I do think that Neville's opinion is actually just a fair opinion that he has. We don't have to share it. And I think Šeško will be, you know, look at Gyökeres. We've both defended Gyökeres. I watched that 45 minutes. He was so good. So good. Link up play. The goal was a piece of piss. You'd have scored that. But the link up play, he was sharp. He's had a pre-season more than Šeško. So maybe in 2 games' time, Šeško suddenly looks really sharp. And it's took Gyökeres, 2.5 months to look actually up to speed. So you've got to be patient with these players. But, you know, we know what it's like in the media. You know, we know other content creators who just will make shit up daily just to try and get a bit of, you know, You know, I'm surprised a certain Chelsea fan actor hasn't said that Šeško is the biggest flop in the Premier League yet. In fact, if he's watching, he's probably just about to go and record it because somebody will take it to that level now, which I don't think Neville did too fair.
So, yeah, look, I think you're right. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. equally everyone's opinions is up for scrutiny. And my issue with what Gary Neville has done, and I did speak about it yesterday, is I want to sometimes see him. I think sometimes he tries so hard to not come across as being biased that he over exit towards Man United. That's just how it comes across to me sometimes. And I just look at the way he's been towards other signings and the way he's been towards Šeško. Now, absolutely, maybe he doesn't rate Šeško. And I've seen that a lot this weekend. So I had a friend of mine in one of my group chats, and he's like, I've seen all these tweets about we should have kept Rasmus and bought Belieber instead. And I absolutely agree. I agree. We'd be a better team. Šeško's flopping. And then it went on all day. And then one of my mates, Phil, just brought back a comment from him back in like July, where he said Šeško's the worst striker around. He'll flop at Man United. And it's like, well, is this why you're pushing the agenda after one bad performance? Because you want to push that you were right in the beginning. So a lot of that goes on as well. And I don't think, I don't feel that Šeško's been a bad signing. I feel that the Grimsby game, he looked well off it. But if De Ligt hadn't thrown his foot out at the end, he would actually have scored the winner if De Ligt didn't get in his way. But aside from that, I've been really impressed with his hold-up play, bringing others into the game. He scored a couple of goals. The assist for Mbeumo was excellent. The pass was fairly simple, and there was a lot to do for Mbeumo, but the touch and turn, we weren't seeing Rasmus do that for 18 months at the club. And I wasn't.
Chelsea as well, the flick on to get Mbeumo through.
He would have got an assist in that game. I think he would have scored in that game if Casemiro wasn't stupidly sent off. So he didn't play well against Brentford. I think what I was taken aback by with Gary and with a lot of United fans at the weekend was we were on an unbeaten run of 4 games. We played quite well in those 4 games. We had some bad moments against Nottingham Forest, the defending. A couple of players played poorly, and it's just all out war again. And for me, I do find that somewhat damaging to the team. We know this stuff filters into the dressing room. I think they can accept criticism, but I think we're just starting to see a little bit of progress. Maybe can't we just put the handbrake on a little bit without going absolutely mad? And I just don't think Gary Neville's helped that. But as you say, he's entitled to an opinion. I'm not going to say people shouldn't be allowed to say what they want, but I will criticize what they've said. And I just felt it was a little bit over the top. Stretford Post here said there's a point Gary keeps attacking United, letting other clubs off. Criticism is fine, but have a balance. Šeško has been okay, though. He'll come good.
But also, I think we're more critical of things that we actually care about. Like, when I look at Arsenal, I don't care. Like, and they're going to win the league, and they're doing really, really well. And I admire the fact that they've only scored 3 goals in 10 games, and they look brilliant. Liverpool will come good. They're just too good. Man City will come good, and Chelsea have got a very good squad as well. And I think Man United are miles off. And although we've had 4 good results, I still think we're miles off where we need to be. So when people crave a little bit of positivity, I've got to be honest. I was quite critical after the draw because I felt that there was a lot of similar mistakes to. It's unforgivable to concede 2 goals in 5 minutes when you're 1-0 up at a difficult place. And at the end of the game, people are going, "Oh, Forest's a hard place to go." Well, it's a fucking hard place to go when you give up you give up 2 goals in 5 minutes because of stupidity. And I think with, I can't speak for Gary Neville, or I quite like listening to Nicky Butt and Paul Scholes on their podcast because they are quite critical. And I am still very critical of what's going on at United. I'm not going to get convinced by 3 or 4 good results. I won't get convinced by being top 4 at Christmas. I still think that we're a club that has won the FA Cup, has finished second in the league, twice in the last 10 years, has won, an FA Cup, a Carabao Cup twice, a Europa League, and still we finished 15th a few months ago. So I get the toxic positivity people, as I call them. They're entitled to that. And I get the toxic negativity people who don't want to give anything positive. But I just sort of sit in the middle where I'm like, there's still a lot at United I don't like. And it won't take long. It doesn't take much for people to scratch that itch for me. And maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same with Gary Neville. Maybe he actually doesn't like Amrin. Maybe he doesn't like the way we play. Maybe he doesn't like the signing of Šeško, in which case, those things will come through. And we are entitled to those opinions. And then people are entitled to go, I think he's a bit too negative about Man United. But there might be a reason for it.
But I suppose there's a social media element as well, because the presenter on this said we have to. They were talking about Gyökeres and said we have to compare him to Šeško. But it was only a couple of weeks ago, and this is why I'm not going too harsh on Šeško, where his hold-up play was looking great and his link-up play was great. and there was multiple Arsenal fans saying, I think we signed the wrong player.
Yeah.
And then Gyökeres puts in an absolutely brilliant performance against Burnley in that first 45 minutes. Those Arsenal fans go all quiet. The Arsenal fans who wanted Gyökeres speak up. The United fans who wanted Gyökeres go, we should have got him. And I think sometimes it's a little bit like politics. You know, we see it when there's atrocities that happen. It's depending upon the perpetrator and the victim, different political groups like become louder and more quieter, and then it will go the opposite way, as opposed to the normal human beings in the middle that just call out all the crap. Do you know what I'm saying? It's
like that Ricky Gervais vodka advert that he wanted to put up in the underground about have you packed your stab vests? And then there's a load of these people pontificating, going, this is a disgrace, this is a disgrace. Then we see what happens on Saturday in the UK on a train, and a load of people are going, well, he's not wrong, is he? You know, and then they're like, oh, stop using something like that as justification. And it's like, you know, football's like that as well. It's like, I remember on Friday, there was on the United stand, somebody went, we've dodged the bullet, not getting Gyökeres and getting Sesko. And then 24 hours later, Gyökeres has a brilliant 45 minutes. Sesko doesn't play particularly well against Forest. And suddenly it's like, Arsenal fans, we dodged the bullet, not getting Sesko. And it's like, oh my God. And we live in that world, you know, the TikTok generation. But I am capable of changing my opinion, but I really have never been somebody. And there are content creators who do it. There are people on the TV who do it. There are people in this community who do it. It's exhausting, and it must be exhausting for them. I mean, you know, you must literally, if you're out with your mates for a drink and you're getting around in, you must be like, 4 pints of lager. Yeah, I'll have a lager. Actually, I'll have a Guinness. I'll have a cider. No lager, no cider. You know, and that's and in football we do have people who just literally, purposely, some of them change their opinion after every weekend. And I just think there's more credibility in saying, I think Arsenal will win the league this season, and getting laughed at, and then a couple of months later, everyone going, oh, he was right, than going, I think Liverpool are going to win the league. I think Man City are going to win the league. Oh, now I think it's going to be Arsenal. You know, and unfortunately, that's what we get. I think Gyökeres is a good player, and I'm glad that I'm getting proved right on that. But it was difficult a few weeks ago. And I think Sesko the same, Terry. I think we will get a lot of people converting over to him because I think he's got the minerals to be good, but it might take a bit of time.
I agree, and people keep saying to me, "Oh, you're going to change your mind now on Liverpool winning the league?" And I said I'm going to wait until the next international break, which I'm still waiting to do, because again, it's a lot of people today are going, "Oh, Arsenal running away," but Liverpool fans saying it. Let's say Arsenal get a player sent off in the opening 10 minutes and lose to Sunderland, and Liverpool go and beat City away. Suddenly, there's 4 points in it, and everyone's minds are going to change again. I think
Arteta out.
Yeah, well, Arteta out will be bad. I mean, they are. I'm telling you now, the Arteta out mob. They are clucking. The lips are dry. They're twitching in the corner because they've not been able to slag their club off for about 6 weeks. They are struggling. I've watched some of their uploads and their shows, and some of them are trying to be really positive about their club. And you can almost, it's weird what social media has done to some people. Where
look at United though. We spoke about it last week, didn't we? Like, you know, there's these people who are vocally hammer him out after Brentford and Man City and everything, and now United win. And they've got to come back because they are flip-flops. And they go, it's because he's changed something. Well, he hasn't changed anything, actually. He's not changed anything. The stats are the same as they were against Arsenal. But, you know, I'll let you continue because I've never understood how this Arteta out thing didn't just die a couple of years ago when they went, I got it wrong. I've got the best interests of Arsenal at heart. I got it wrong. He's doing a good job. How you can be Arteta out for finishing second, and how you can still be angling for Arteta out when you're top, but they're still waiting for it.
I think there's multiple layers to it though, and I won't put everybody into the same category, but I think there's a combination of some people have this notion of, it doesn't matter that if it's Arsenal and Arteta or other clubs, and it's, I really need people being right about an opinion is so important to a lot of people online, especially people that want to become content creators or are content creators. They see it as, this is how I get to where I want to be. So it says, well, I'm going to keep kicking the can down the road until I can say that I was right. I've seen it with Cristiano Ronaldo. I remember when he got 38, 39, became predominantly a kind of fox in the box striker. And I remember listening to people on podcasts say, do you remember when I told you that he didn't have much tech and his dribbling wasn't that great and all he really was a goal poacher? Yeah, I remember you saying that 15 years ago. Look at him now, I told you. And I remember listening to it thinking, have I just lost I thought I was having a mini stroke. I didn't think my brain was working. you've waited till he was 38 to look at him at 38 to go, I told you he was always like this. What are you going on about? Even like Bruno Fernandes this year, I thought the first 4 or 5 games of this season in midfield, he was looking bad, partly because of the system. Since the centre-backs have been stepping up and the 10s have been dropping in deeper, for me, I'm not saying he's Paul Scholes, but he has performed better. And people don't like that. They're like, I ain't praising it because I said it was crap. I'm like, I would still prefer other players in midfield to him. I'm not going back on it, but I'm not going to sit there and just lie when he's. Like, I thought he individually was quite good against Nottingham Forest. I'm not going to not say that. So you thought it was crap.
Yeah.
I thought he played quite well, but it's one
I
of
thought he
these
played
things
well
where,
against Brighton.
Yeah,
I thought he played well against Brighton or Liverpool. I thought he was shit against Forest, to be fair, but yeah.
Okay, but again, but the opinions are there. But the thing for me is, I was criticising him earlier on in the season. When I think he has a good game, I'm just going to say it. I don't sit there and go, "Oh, I can't say he's had a good game."
Yeah, people can't do that.
I said it wasn't working. I don't understand people whose brains work like that. But yeah, it's on Ricky Gervais. He has put another one out. He says, "Do you reckon they'd accept this one?" Another one of those posters, and it's him on the billboard, the drink, and it's "Don't jump, you'll make everyone late for work, you selfish prick." He says, "You think they'll accept that one?" I doubt it, Ricky. I doubt they will. That's probably offended a lot of people, to be fair, but it is a joke. But there we go. Next clip. What am I going to go to? We're talking United. We're going to go on to Arsenal in a minute, but I want to play a Chelsea clip. Let's take a look at this.
I think Chelsea have the worst wing pairing in the Premier League. Garnacho and Pedro Neto are 2 hideous wings, and they're 2 players that share the same weakness, and this weakness will continue to hold Chelsea back. Like, sometimes I look at this Chelsea team and I say, hey, 1 or 2 centre-backs, maybe 1 or 2 other wingers, and you could seriously make a case they can compete for the Premier League. For me, Estevao, that right wing is his for the foreseeable future. Garnacho, Pedro Neto, that one weakness that they both have in their locker is they're both tunnel vision wingers. Wingers that dribble with their head down. Those players don't spot passes, and when they do, it's too late. On top of the fact that they're both very erratic. They're both kick the ball and chase right after it. Like, don't get me wrong, at times they'll get you a goal, at times they'll get you an assist, but these are not 2 wingers that should be in a team looking to compete, looking to win silverware, let alone pay over 100 million for those 2 players. For me, the wingers of the like of Garnacho and Pedro Neto, they're more impact players.
This comes off the back. This is Hadj from Hadj Football. Big up Hadj. It comes off the back of quite a lot of Chelsea fans this weekend absolutely ripping into Garnacho. There's a lot of posts saying that United have scammed us. He's nowhere near good enough. What do you make overall, though, with this hot take here about Neto and Garnacho not being right playing in the same Chelsea team at the same time?
Well, as Stretford Post says, the fact that he's got that dramatic music with it just makes it even better. I mean, look, I didn't necessarily look. I always said that Garnacho had a very high ceiling at Man United, and I actually did really like him. And I felt very disappointed about where it went and let down, and the Villa shirt and everything like that, and his behaviour. So I almost thought, he's going to come back and sting us, this. But reality is, I thought he'd go to Chelsea motivated, like the immature person he is, to prove Man United and Amrin wrong. And I thought we might see a bit of a glow up. If that's the glow up, Chelsea fans have got a problem. This is a motivated player trying to prove United wrong, and that's what he's doing. So it's great. It's music to the ears, as I say. Where I disagree with it, and I do agree with parts of it, is like Estevao and Gittins get you off the edge of your seat. They're the players I want to see starting for Chelsea. They're the players I want to watch play for Chelsea, especially Estevao. But this is the problem with the modern game. Like, I understand what Maresca's doing. Garnacho and Neto will work better defensively than Gittins and Estevao. And in the modern game, that sadly is to the detriment of flair. We're going through an era in football where, apart from 1 or 2, and Yamal's an exception to the rule, in the Premier League, these flair players are dying. And who you blame for that, I don't know. But Estevao should be starting for any team. Like, when he's got the ball, he's head up, he's looking, he's taking people on. He's the sort of player that, whether you support Chelsea or not, you're looking at him and going, he's not starting because Neto's starting. And Neto's starting because he's basically a bloody right wing back, and he'll track back and he'll work hard. And unfortunately, we're just going through that at the moment, where managers would rather have hard-working 11s and focus on set pieces and long throw-ins than put a player in the team that maybe not defensively that good, but will absolutely get people on off their seat and create things. And I think Esteban should be starting for Chelsea, but I understand why Maresca's picking him, Petro. And people probably should have understood that by looking at Maresca. But I don't know that there's many managers at the moment that would pick Esteban over Neto, because it's that defensive work rate. And it's sad. It's sad. So I do agree with what he's saying, but you've also got to acknowledge why it's happening. And it's happening for a reason. Garnacho and Neto are playing over two flair players because they're better defensively. And, you know, that's very, very sad. But I understand why it's happening. I don't agree with it, but that's why it's happening.
I hear where he's coming from. I feel that there's one thing in this mix, though, that has not been taken into consideration. They don't have a 9 or a good one. And I feel where these wingers can help Chelsea is, yes, that they are both they're not really skillful. It is very much, knock it past the player and run. And there is nothing wrong with that. But they need to stop. I think there's an element of wanting to put the ball in a little bit earlier into the box. But Pedro doesn't make the runs, typically speaking, that a number 9 does. And that's what Liam Delap was purchased for. And through injury and a stupid suspension, they haven't really seen a lot of him yet. And I think that's where you might see wingers like that thrive at Chelsea, is getting it to the byline and getting the ball into the box. And I actually think more clubs have got to start doing this. I don't think it's specific to Chelsea. The amount of times I watch football and I end up shouting, I don't do it when it's against Man United, but even when it's a team that I don't want to win, I get annoyed at them because they play the ball around well. It gets knocked out to the winger. And you think, right, hit him first time. Take a touch, play it back, take it, try and put it onto their stronger foot. And I just think now you're letting the centre backs and the defenders get set, where if you hit that ball first time, your attacker's running in. Some of them are even facing the wrong way because they're getting back into position. There needs to be a little bit more, knock it past your fullback, create half a yard, and just cross the fucking ball. As basic as that sounds, and I know some will say, that's Brexit football. It works and it's effective. So often now it's get it back onto the correct foot, and then the cross has got to be absolutely pitch perfect because it's got to beat the fullback and the centre back and maybe the midfielder that's got set in place. Just get it in first time. But
I'd tell you who would absolutely, you look at players who are, from past eras and go, would they work in the modern game? And obviously Peter Schmeichel would struggle, even though he's the greatest goalkeeper I've seen in the Prem. He was crap with his feet, so he'd struggle in the modern game. I'd tell you who'd absolutely cook in the modern game, and I'm sure people in the chat can give some examples. You put David Beckham on the wing in the modern game, he'd be perfect because he would work hard backwards and also very little space, pin perfect cross in the way that's not inverted and in the way that defenders can't defend and goalkeepers can't defend. I mean, David Beckham in the modern game on your right wing would be unfucking believable, because there is this, the one thing Beckham didn't really have was the ability to take people on and genuine pace. But in the way that everyone's playing at the moment, he'd do the defensive work, he can pass, and he'd put the crosses in that people don't want to do at the moment. But those crosses are still deadly. Like it's not like crossing a good cross into the box is not useful anymore. It would be so useful.
What people don't remember about David Beckham is it wasn't just sometimes they were hit with pace, sometimes they were hit. He would cross it's hard to even demonstrate this. If that's where the goal is, he'd sometimes cross the ball here just in front of the halfway line and it would still curve all the way back round. He used to do such amazing things, but it wasn't just those kind of crosses. There were times where he had very little room to maneuver and it would be almost like a little bit of a dink chip with the inside of his foot, and he would find a player, but he would cross the ball first time so often. And I just think more, again, Trent and the KDB, all these guys were brilliant at crossing the ball. People have forgotten the accuracy and the variation in David Beckham's crossing, but it's hitting it first time. It's something that I feel, and something that Ryan Giggs spoke about this the other day, and it just it went under the radar. And I want to see this. I mean, our manager keeps moaning about it, and it's Dorgu isn't at the level yet. Maybe it's about giving someone else a chance. If we had someone on that left-hand side who could get into the positions Delo's in, but cross early on the left foot, again, would Šeško have had more chances to score this year, potentially? Even Ahmad,
6'5" striker, put a bloody cross in the box. He might do better.
Exactly. Put it on their head. I mean, even Ahmad this weekend, it was only one cross he put in, and it's pretty good to the back post. And I think Casemiro run a bit too early and was a little bit ahead of the ball. But I am thinking, as much as we've criticised Šeško this year, there hasn't been a single cross put on his fucking head. Like a really for a good heading. There was one, and it was saved, and then he scored the rebound. That's the crazy part about this. It's put the ball onto a striker's head and see how many goals you can score. The one thing City do amazingly with Erling Haaland, whether it's through balls or crosses, they find that fucker. And some of it is his movement, granted, but they find him and he scores goals. And I'd love an experiment. I'd love to put Haaland in the United team for 5-6 games and Šeško in the City team, and just to see how much of it is the system and the quality of finding the striker versus the movement, to see whether Haaland actually gets more opportunities than what Šeško is getting in the United team. And I would think he would, because he's got amazing movement and timing and anticipation. And that's all attributes which, again, all go under the radar because it's not techie. But cross the ball first time. It's needed. Beckham in this Arsenal team will definitely score a corner every game. I mean, Beckham... people just don't realise how good those corners were.
There's a great comment here, though. I'm surprised we don't see this, and United should do it. In swinger for winger, out swingers for fullbacks. I mean, that's the definition of how you overlap. So if I've got a right back, like, I don't know, Trent, and I've got a left wing, and I've got a right winger like Salah, who's left-footed, isn't he? So basically, you get the ball out wide, you give the ball to Salah, you've got a double up to stop the in swinger, but then overlap with Trent, and then he's got the space to put his cross in. I mean, it's not hard to put crosses in the box, but I actually don't think Amrin wants to do it. I don't think it's his style of play. I think that's the problem. Šeško was our 5th choice striker. If we were going for if we wanted to put crosses in the box, he would have been the 1st choice striker. Maybe Amrin doesn't want to put crosses into the box, but to not do it with a 6'5" striker, to me, is a bit silly. And I think it's an area of the game that, as we've seen with set pieces, the modern centre back isn't necessarily good in the air. Put more crosses in the box.
This year says Beckham in the modern day game it'd either be a right back or it'd be the right player in the midfield 3. He wouldn't play right wing, but this is also why you use a guest. Whenever I hear Salah's and Mane's compared to Giggs's and Beckham's, it hurts my heart, because I just look at it and go, you're not comparing like for like. Yes, those guys were left and right midfielders or left and right wingers, but the role has changed so dramatically. Look how many more goals the wingers score now. Yeah, because they play 30, 40 yards further up the pitch. They're inside forwards, really, as opposed to wingers. But yeah, they're not comparable at all. Like Beckham's role and Salah's role are just completely and utterly different players. And certain wingers
Giggs had a good cross on him.
No, he did. I mean, Giggs would probably play as the left. It would probably play if he's playing in the midfield, 4-3-3 in the modern day era. Giggs would play as a left forward, same as McManaman would play as one of the forwards. But players like David Beckham, players like Darren Anderton, who was fantastic in his day, they would probably be more the right side of a midfield 3, or the wing back or the right back in the modern day game. You're probably right about that in terms of skill set. Let's go on to our next clip here. Who are we going to go to? Let's take a look at Spurs. I want to get your Spurs take on the Tottenham stuff. Let's take a look at this.
Getting toxic at Spurs, where it seems like they've collectively agreed that the fans were the problem at the weekend. Vicario, on the team's reaction to the defeat against Chelsea, we've spoken, we need cooler heads. If we had a bit more help during some situations from the stands, maybe we could do a bit better. But we can't do anything about that. It was a big, painful situation. They can express their pain. But there was also this. Spurs believed that Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven ignoring Thomas Frank after full-time versus Chelsea wasn't a slight on Frank, but instead more of a show of frustration of what had developed and a build-up of negativity from fans at their home stadium over previous weeks. So that was the fans' fault as well. And Thomas Frank also saying, I thought the fans were fantastic and noisy for the first 30 minutes, but there was a turn after we conceded the goal. After the game, and we had performed badly, more than fair the boos, but during the game, we need the fans. You've got to perform in a way that's going to get the fans behind you. Kind
of interesting that, Frank a little bit, but the players sort of talking about we could have done better if the fans were on our side. And there's obviously the Jed Spence and Mickey van der Ven refusing to go and clap the fans. They've only won 3 home games in the last 19 at home. It doesn't feel a happy place, considering the fact they're in the sort of the Champions League spots. They were 3rd at the start of that game. It feels like there's a bit of a crisis, really, at Spurs, strangely enough.
Look, one of the world's #1 fan creators is not going to go in on fans. and I'm talking about Terry. But no, look, my opinion is Spurs is incredible. I saw this at the weekend. They are 4th from bottom for home form and top for away form in the league. It's crazy. So, you know, Man United really should go and win there on Saturday, fingers crossed. But the criticism of fans thing is always an easy thing to do because it's faceless. We're all fans, but there's many of us. So who are you actually picking on? Football fans are expected to, you know, go all around the country, pay ridiculous amounts of money, give up on family time, you know, spend most of their Saturday, even if it's a home game, traveling, getting through traffic, you pay big money. And then when the team doesn't perform, you get blamed for it as well. I mean, these footballers, these managers get paid ridiculous amounts of money. They're actually wearing the kit. They actually have a role in what happens on the pitch, but it's the fans' fault. Now, I've seen United this season. We're really good at home. And the crowd are really good. We saw the flags last time out. You know, they're great. I've also been at Old Trafford under Mourinho, under Ollie, under Ten Hag. I don't get there very often, but when I do go, I've been at games where I remember Crystal Palace against Man United just before Mourinho got sacked. You could hear a pin drop. Everyone was very fed up. We're human beings. We're not going to fake enjoyment when it's not going well. But I've never been at a ground where a crowd's not excited at kickoff. But I have been at a ground where a fan base is excited, and then 10 minutes in, they're like, fucking hell, what a load of shit. You can't fake. You can't fake it. So if the players want the fans to give them more, they've got to give them more. And I've seen it. I've been at Old Trafford years ago where United aren't playing that well. And, you know, Ryan Giggs flies into a sliding tackle to win it off an Arsenal player or whatever. And the crowd suddenly go, oh, that's it. Come on. You can't start a fire without a spark, as Bruce Springsteen once sang. And you can't blame fans for poor performances. And it seems to be creeping in a little bit more because obviously fans are more vocal now because of social media and everything. But you are paid a lot of money to perform. You're not going to get Coldplay at Wembley saying, sorry, that was a shit song. You didn't put your phone lights on enough. You know, it's on Chris Martin and it's on the players to, I mean, surely that, you know, the football ultimately is an entertainment sport. If you're on the pitch, your job is to entertain. And if you're not performing, part of being a professional is going, I'm not performing. I need to up my game. You can't go, I'm not playing well because of them. It's their fault. It's not my fault. You know, they're just blame shifters. And Spurs ultimately are the biggest fucking light switch team ever. I mean, this is a team that down tools against Man City and could have got Champions League football, but down tools to stop Arsenal winning the league. So if we're talking about mentality and, you know, inconsistency, I think it's a bit cheap from Spurs players to be blaming Spurs fans.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes fans can be a little too harsh. There's been some times where I've gone, what's going on here? You know, I want to say Jose was the manager, so it could have been Chelsea. I don't think it was United. I don't think it couldn't have been. Maybe it was Tottenham. But some man that they've been on a really good run, and maybe they'd won like 8 of the last 10 games. They were doing really, really well, and they had a bad first half. Do you know what? It might have actually been Harry Redknapp at Spurs, but anyway, done really well. Had a bad first half, and the crowd booed. I remember Harry Redknapp going, "Fucking hell!" Like, I think it was Harry Redknapp. I think it was like, "Do you remember where you were when we came in? Look where we are now. We've had a bad half. Calm yourselves down." I get it in that moment because there's times where we can all be as fans a little bit spoiled, but at the same time, you can't have a go at the fans for moaning that every time you got the ball into a good position, you pass it backwards. They had I tell you when I was really laughing. I shouldn't, but I can't help myself. Was when they had like 3 or 4 free kicks late in the game, and you pump it into the box, and every single one of them, they knocked it short, messed around with it, and it ended up back at the goalkeeper. I was sitting there and thinking, you've got to be checking the betting accounts of these players. Something didn't even seem right.
They were absolutely shit. And I'm not a Spurs fan, but what I said to you at the start, I didn't even know you had a Spurs clip. I felt sorry for Chelsea because they can only do what they can do. And actually, Pedro should have had a hat-trick. They should have won 4-0. So yeah. Chelsea have got nothing to do with this. They went away from home and they deserve to win. So Spurs are totally to blame for this. And that game was absolute shit. And the referee had something to do with it, of course. But Spurs were total shit. They deserve to get bloody booed. Honestly, I don't like booing at grounds as much as I'm opinionated. I don't actually like booing that much, but Spurs deserve to get booed. They were fucking rubbish. And it doesn't matter whether you're in the top 4 or not. You're playing Chelsea in a London derby. You're at home. They were shit. They were shit. They deserve all the criticism. You can't blame the fans for that.
No, I agree with that. But one fan I do like laughing at when it comes to Spurs is this guy. This is obviously the voices are mocked up on this. But he was having a go at how bad his team were the other day. But this was only a short while ago from Mr. Jamie O'Hara.
Romero, the best centre-back partnership in the world right now. Why are you not saying nothing? I'm just waiting for laughter track. There's only one player who I think is probably better than them, and that's Van Dijk. Van der Ven is top draw. He is top draw. He walks into Real Madrid's team. Romero walks into Real Madrid's team. I like Van der Ven. Both of them play for Real Madrid. Name better centre-halves than them as a partnership. They don't get the credit they deserve because they're at Tottenham, right? And everyone wants to have a dig at them. You finished 17th! Europa League champions, by the way. Yeah? Europa League champions. Van der Ven was unbelievable in that. Would you have Van der Ven at Chelsea? I like Van der Ven. Does he get in your team? He's not better than Colwill, right? Oh, right? What? Hold on. He's not better than Colwill. Better than Colwill, right? Oh, mate, I'll go home now. Well, go on then. I wish you would. Van der Ven and Romero are an unbelievable player. They're very good, but they're not the best in the world, Jay. Can you now, Van der
It was this like this one here got me.
As a partnership. They don't get the credit they deserve because they're at Tottenham, right? And everyone wants to have a dig at them. You finished 17th! Europa League.
They should do their whole show in those voices. Honestly, it was amazing.
Oh yeah, they should. It would actually make it more. It would make it entertaining. I mean, yeah. I mean, look. Obviously, you know what I think about that station. I know what it's all about. It literally is scripted bullshit. But I mean, they are the unfortunately, they are the absolute. I mean, somebody with money should start a football radio station because there's nothing else to listen to in this country. You have to listen to it. You get in the car, you choose music or you choose football, and you have to listen to that. And then you have to listen to that. So there should be an alternative because they are what we were talking about. Like it literally is that they are the bottom feeders of what football has become in certain areas, which is you can change your opinion day to day. And it makes it very, very difficult if you are somebody that likes to have a more longer term pragmatic view. I mean, Van der Ven and Romero are good, but they're also very shit. Like they can have games where they're very, very good, but I mean, they're not Gabriel and Saliba. They're not Konate and Van Dijk. They're not at that level, because if you had Gabriel and Saliba at Spurs and you put Van der Ven and Romero at Arsenal would not be top of the league, and Spurs would probably be in the top 3. Because they wouldn't concede goals like Spurs do, and Arsenal suddenly would concede goals like Spurs do. So I like Van der Ven and Romero, but let's not fuck about and pretend that they're one of the best centre backs in partnership in the league, because they're not.
I always look at it this way with Tottenham, and my dad's a Spurs fan, and one of my business partners is a Spurs fan. So I've got a lot of Spurs people around me in my life, and my dad is. He hates about 80% of Tottenham fans, and his whole life he's hated them. Well, his adult life anyway. He's like, because he goes, we always do this thing because I love my club, and I think we're the best in the world because they're my team. He said, but so many Spurs fans just honestly believe always, and this isn't just like the last 10 years. He goes, this was going on in the 90s. This would go on. We'd have a good run or we'd sign a decent player. And it's always, oh, we're better than Arsenal now. We're as good as United now. We've got the best, the best. And every now and then they have had a player that you could put in that category, like a Gareth Bale as an example. But everything's always, what we have is so much better than what you've got. And my dad's always found it really embarrassing. And the problem is, O'Hara does this all the time. Our Spurs are back. We're going to challenge for the league title. 6 weeks later, we're finished. We're rubbish. It's over. And it's like, well, maybe you're being paid to say that. Maybe it's scripted, as you say. But there's this element of, and it is funny to watch the meltdown sometimes. But then you watch Chelsea be in a really good run and win trophies. You'll watch Arsenal do what they're doing, and it's slagging it off every 10 seconds. It's like, I don't get it. As you say,
culture, it's like you say, it's a culture thing, isn't it? That Spurs just can't change. And they've had managers that could go in there and change that, the Contes, the Mourinhos, and you can't change it. And, you know, Thomas Frank's only just gone in there, but you look at what Thomas Frank built at Brentford. I thought he deserved the shot at Spurs, but the biggest problem he's going to have is the battle against the culture. You know, I know I'm not saying Ange did well, but I did agree with Ange when they played that game against Man City, and the fans and the players actually wanted to lose to stop Arsenal winning, and he wants to win because he wants to get in the Champions League. But they're like, no, we've got to stop Arsenal. And they'd rather stop Arsenal than build something themselves. And it's a very hard, very, very difficult culture to change that.
No, I agree. Well, I think one of the reasons that Spurs fans are actually losing their minds at the moment, even though they're fifth, even though they've been very hard to beat in most games, they've had probably three. I feel poor performances, but Bodo Glint, Bournemouth at home, and then Chelsea at home. And I know there's things for them to improve on. I'm not saying they should just be gleefully skipping around like a puppy, but at the same time, I think what's really hurting them is Arsenal being formidable at the top. I think if most Spurs fans were to be, if Arsenal were currently sitting sixth and Spurs were where they are, I think Spurs fans would be jumping for joy. And I do think they have this weird inferiority complex to Arsenal that they cannot get over. But I suppose that's it reminds me a little bit, you sometimes you see, you might have a friend like this. I know I've got friends like it who they have an older brother or sister.
I don't have any
Maybe
friends.
a younger brother or sister, and they don't have friends. That's true. I've heard the rumors. Well, by the way, weren't you with your team at the football awards last night? I saw Beth and the guys sharing their pictures, team, squad at the Northern
this is really
Awards.
funny. So the team went to the Northwest Football Awards yesterday, last night, and they're all dressed up really nice and like their pictures. And a few people have said, "Why didn't you go?" And I said, with knowing nothing, I said, "We'll probably lose to some shitty lower league podcast. I hate awards. I am not going to go. I don't do awards." Anyway, I get a message from them all night. "Oh, having a great night." Then they messaged me, "We didn't win. We lost to a Stockport County podcast." And I went, "Yeah, I've just looked at their Twitter account. They've got 4,000 followers. It's amazing, isn't it? We've built this over 10 years. It's one of the biggest football media / companies in the world. And we can't." I said, "This is why I don't go. I hate awards in anything. Oscars, bloody anything. I hate awards. They're bullshit. They're basically shit. There is no such thing as an award show that is fair. So I don't go."
I got invited a couple of years ago. I'm not going to name the awards ceremony. I don't disrespect them. I never did the whole nominate yourself and then share it with your audience. And I just think about that. I was like, well, I didn't feel that's what awards. What I mean by that is when I used to get awards when I worked in the banking industry, when I got awards in the martial arts world, often they were surprising. You'd go, "Oh, you give me an award." The Oscars, people get nominated. You don't see Will Smith on his Instagram, right? "I've got to promote winning it." You get nominated by a panel and then you win it by a panel. So I felt a bit weird doing that at that time, but it is what it is. People that do it, no disrespect. I've got friends that do it. I've got no issues with it. But then about 3 years into it, I got an invite. "Oh, would you like to come to the awards evening?" And I was like, "Oh, that's nice to get an invite. Maybe I don't get invited to a lot. I'm just, this is what it is." "Well, yeah, I'm up for coming. Would you like to bring your team? Like, other creators? You're cool. This is how much it costs for a table." And I weren't against paying.
I know who you're talking about now. Anyway,
yeah, I weren't against going. I wasn't against going. I thought, "Okay, I'll pay. Like, we'll do all right." And then it was essentially, I said, "I don't know if I can go now." I had something I was still working at the time. I had something at work, couldn't go. It was basically, I got told, not by the main organizer, but somebody, "If you spend enough money to go, you'll probably win." I was like, "Oh, this is just," and then that put me off. I'm not paying to win an award. That's just, yeah. So I don't know if that award even goes, that company even does awards anymore. You've got to be really careful with some of them, because some of them.
There was one not long ago. I think it was like Sports Journalism Award or something like that. You did have to pay for a table to be there. And basically there's about 100 United YouTube channels now. And one of them obviously paid for a table and won. And I was like, in fairness, the United Stand is the best United channel out there by a very, very long way. But take United Stand out of it, that one's better, 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 and that one's better. And yet you've won the award. And I was just like, fuck off. But I've seen it with the Oscars. I've seen people not win Best Actor and they should have won it. So I just think the trouble with awards is that it's just so subjective. And we've even seen it with football, like the Player of the Year award that gets voted for by players. I think there was an era where when they had to put their votes in, their agents probably like, "You've got to put your vote in." And they're probably playing golf and go, "Just put De Bruyne. He's considered to be a good player, isn't he?" And you'd sometimes see De Bruyne win Player of the Year and go, he's probably the best player in the league, but was he the best player this season? And I think that's the problem with awards. You get, these little like bias opinions that, or laziness around it.
There's so much of it that goes on, and look, some people, I've been on a judging panel at the Football Content Awards for the past 4 or 5 years, and I take it really seriously. And if I'm judging a category and I don't know some of the. I'll watch a show or two and try, because I want to do it properly. And it's weird, like having the most views doesn't always necessarily mean the best. Sometimes it's about discovery, but I think you should have the right categories for people. Because what I don't, I voted I don't know if they've been nominated this year, but 3 years running, I voted for the Big Six to win Best Premier League Podcast because I looked at it this way, and I sat there, and I know a few of the guys on the panel and. On the podcast to a decent level, and they were like, "Oh, how did it go?" So, well, I voted number one, and when I was with the other judges, I said, "Well, it's got to be number one," because we're comparing it to other Premier League. Like, if you compare, you shouldn't have a podcast your size up against a non-league podcast because they can never get your numbers, no matter how good they are, because there isn't a big enough audience of people that support Stockport, as an example. You should have categories for this because you got to do a little bit like weight categories in fighting. But some of the rationale people were giving for the other podcast to beat the Big Six, I was sitting there going, but that just doesn't make any sense to me because they all fish out of the same pond. They're all talking to Premier League fans about the Premier League in general. There's just no way with it isn't just the numbers, it's the interactions, it's the clips that go viral. It's like with yourselves. If you're up against any other Man United channel, unless the Man United channel has done a really amazing documentary series that kind of makes them stand out, you all do the same thing, right? Most of them copied you, but they all do the same thing, which is watch-alongs, fan reactions, and kind of news. You're all doing the same thing. If yours is consistently dominating them, theirs just can't be better. Subjectively, it can be, but not objectively. So yeah, the awards it's why I don't take player awards seriously either. What makes me laugh is Chelsea fans are up in my DMs yesterday going, "Oh, Palmer's in the World 11. Palmer's in the World 11. Saka's not. Hold that. Although I think Palmer's great, by the way. And I'm like, yeah, but you're the same guys the other day told me that Donnarumma's overrated and shit. He's in that same 11. So which is it? Do you take the awards seriously, or are you? It's why I never factor awards in at all when I talk about like the greatest players of all time ever. I actually ignore personal awards at all costs because I just think they're crazy. I've got a clip here, people. Let's take a little listen to this.
Just need to make up your mind. Because back in the day when Tony Pulis was handing it to us, Rory Delap getting 2 assists from long throws against us, Arsenal fans back then, myself included, were quite vocal about what we perceived to be a very negative approach. And rival fans rightly told us that just because Pulis and Stoke don't play the beautiful game, so long as it's effective, we have to learn to deal with it. There are many ways to win a game of football, Arsenal, beyond death by 1,000 passes. So Arsenal pick up the rock, develop more physicality and athleticism to help us when transitions break down. And we decide to develop our own dark arts and set piece play. And it becomes an effective way for Arsenal to win games. All of a sudden, you mock Arteta by comparing him to the same Tony Pulis and his style of play that you defended when he was using it to beat Arsenal. You spent 5 years telling Arsenal fans the only thing that matters is winning. That is a mantra that every Arsenal fan in the last 5 years has heard. In fact, if we had £1 for every time a rival fan had said that to us in the last 5 years, I wouldn't be waking up to go to work now. I'd be retired in the Bahamas. And you said that when Tony Pulis was handing us those L's. But now all of a sudden we developed a style of play that is effective for us, that is helping us to not only win games, but is making us look like we can win titles for the first time in over 2 decades. But no, Arsenal, you can't win that way.
I thought it was an interesting one there. I know Chris Gunner King. He used to come on the terrace years and years ago, and I saw this pop up on my TL the other day, and it did make me laugh a little bit. We spoke about it a lot on this show, the sort of flip-flopping of fans. 1 minute winning is all that matters. Now suddenly it doesn't. And every broadcaster for the past 2 weeks has spoke about boring Arsenal. And I think they're right to go. They don't have to like the style. You don't have to like the style. But it's this projection of saying to Arsenal fans, you must condemn how you're doing it, which I find to be very, very hypocritical towards Arsenal.
Well, I think there are certain Arsenal fans out there that, I know everything about Man United's history and I didn't live it because that's surely part of the journey of a fan. Although, admittedly, I did used to work with a United fan who knew nothing about Munich, which just amazed me. And then they read about it and they were like, it's amazing. And I was like, yeah, you should have fucking known that. You supposedly supported United all your life. So I think we all do know the stories of our football clubs. So it surprises me with certain Arsenal fans who you're top of the league, you're probably going to win the league, and you're slagging off the way you play because in your history, boring Arsenal actually started in the late 80s and early 90s under George Graham, where you used to defend and keep clean sheets and score the odd goal. In fact, I remember you winning a European tournament doing it. I think it was the UEFA Cup. So Arsenal, even before Pulis and everyone else like this, have had this ability to win trophies, league titles under George Graham playing boring football. So it's nothing new to Arsenal fans. It's nothing new to your history. So I don't know why it's such an issue for Arsenal fans. I think for rival fans, it's a way to stick to beat them with. I understand that, if you don't want Arsenal to win the league and they're top of the league and they're boring, you can call them boring. But as an Arsenal fan, I just wouldn't give a shit. I don't know why you'd argue about it. We've spoken about it anyway. Look, at the end of the day, do I like the way the Premier League is at the moment? I don't like it when Delo runs across the side of the pitch to do a long throw in as a United fan. I hate it. It's crap. I want to see people taking people on. I want to see Flair. I want to see Esteban. I want to see those types of players. But at the moment, Pep Guardiola's reimagination of football in the Premier League led to us having smaller defenders who play out from the back. And somebody somewhere has gone, there's a vulnerability here. We put more crosses into the box. Keepers are not protected anymore, as we know. And defenders aren't that good in the air anymore. Let's get players who can put good crosses in, Rice and Saka. Let's get people who are absolutely brilliant in the air, Saliba, Gabriel. And let's exploit a weakness that most teams have got. And that's what Arsenal have done. And at the moment, they are cruising the league. They've conceded 3 goals in 10 games, which is unbelievable. And one of them was a worldie by Szoboszlai. They have found a way to effectively destroy everybody. And that's football. That's the evolution of football. Now, somebody's got to figure out a way to make it a little bit more entertaining and win titles, and they will. But at the moment, Arsenal spotted a gap in the window and are exploiting it. I also think, though, I watched Burnley at the weekend. They had a back 6 in the first 5 minutes. So you can't play expansive, great football when you're up against teams that are parking the bus like that. So Arsenal will kill a team if they attack them, but they've found a way to kill a team if they sit back and park the bus. And yeah, it might not be the most entertaining way, but I don't blame Arsenal for it.
No, I completely agree. I find it's the hypocrisy I don't like. You don't have to like the football, but it's the Arsenal got moaned at for years and criticised for years for being naive and being weak and not adapting. Why is Wenger still trying to play this football with little players? Football moves moved on. They've moved on to adapt to the way a lot of opponents in the Premier League now play. Low blocks, hard to break down, strong and powerful, good at set pieces, kill you on the counter attack. They've built a squad that essentially is the antidote, the kryptonite to that style of football. And I think what's really bothering people is the fact that they look like they may go on to win the league from here. And a lot of it is banter for a lot of people, but it's going to also destroy a lot of careers because Arsenal have been United have been this for a while as well, but we have won some trophies. But both our clubs I put in the same category. Maybe it's why I'm a little protective because I sense it. Is we're like the whipping boys. We can always be negative about them. We can always slag them off even when they're doing well. It will get views. All their rivals tune in. If they start winning major trophies again, that all goes away. And I think there is a genuine feeling in like the mainstream media of shit. If Arsenal win something. Think about all the criticism that Arteta has got in the last 5 years and how much of it can be rinse, repeat. If he wins the title, it's all gone. Every little bit of it's gone. And I think they're panicking. And rivals that have enjoyed it, rivals always jump on whatever. I get fans doing it. I understand it. Fans.
Do you think it's Arsenal fans who don't want him to win the league?
There are definitely Arsenal fans online. 100% there are Arsenal fans online that do not want Arsenal to win the league. Again, content creators, not someone who tweets, someone who comments in the comment section. I'm talking, there are certain Arsenal content creators, and I'm not even naming them because it isn't about singling somebody out. I think a lot of them fear it because they have built businesses on TikTok, they have built podcasts, they have built shows, they've built channels that have thrived when Arsenal have lost. And I think they view it as, if they win the league, if they were to win the league and Champions League, how do I thrive? I think there's a lot of that that's coming. I mean, AFTV get accused of it a lot. And I think what's interesting is that AFTV will be fine no matter what happens. I think AFTV being perceived as a negative channel, I've always found that a little bit harsh, because actually if you watch, like I do, their fan cams regularly, and I've done forever, I support that channel quite a lot. Even when it was the peak Wenger out periods, you still had multiple fans backing Wenger. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't just like Robbie has never just put out one type of opinion. I thought it's always been a big mixture, if that makes sense. And if you think about the last 3 or 4 years, I know Turkish has left the channel now to do his own thing, but you had like Turkish and you had like Julian, who are like, forget the issues that people have had with Julian, just talk about the football opinion, the complete polar opposites of one another. And I think the more of that is needed. And I think people that haven't done that, I think people that have focused heavily on, I'm going to shit on my club to grow, I definitely think they won't admit it. They'll probably attack me for saying it. But I think there is this element of, what do I do if we're no longer a team that can be laughed at? And I get it. At the end of the day, it's you know, if
it's
you,
a thing though, isn't it? I just find that completely and utterly foreign. You know, you choose your child, you choose your team as a child, and if you can't enjoy, I mean, I remember when we played Brentford at Old Trafford, and McTominay scored 2 late goals, and I don't particularly like McTominay. And I thought we were pretty shit at home to Brentford. But I did the match reaction afterwards, and I was just like, get in, this is great. And people are like, it's embarrassing. And I was like, how can it ever be embarrassing to celebrate your team winning a game of football? Like, surely we can all talk about players we like and systems we like and tactics we like and performance we like. But surely the very core of everything is winning. Because I tell you what, in 99, when we won that final, I often wonder what the reaction would be to that now. I presume 99.9% of us would just be ecstatic at a last-minute winner, but the performance was not very good, and Bayern Munich deserved to win the game. You know, would that game land differently in the modern social media world, where people who maybe were going, yeah, we won it, but we didn't deserve to win it? I mean, when in 1999, the world we lived in, everybody was just absolutely ecstatic at what we'd done. I just think at the foremost, I would never tell anybody how to support football, but I think sometimes we need to remember that football's a beautiful game, and the big point of football is the team that you choose to support. And you don't have to agree with teams and formations and owners, but they don't own your support for that football club. That's a very personal thing. I always just thought it was like, you know, they want to get proven right on Arteta, but ultimately if he wins the league, they'll just go, that's one of the greatest things. We've not won it for 20 years.
Well, yeah, I think, look, I think some people, that there's a proving right thing, but there are definitely people that have created businesses that thrive on certain elements, you know, and I think that it's really funny here, actually, because someone here says, say it, you're talking about Lee Gunner. Well, I'm not talking about Lee. Lee's channel will thrive whether they're winning or losing. Yes, there'll be spikes when they lose a game.
Who's Lee Gunner?
Lee Gunner, he used to be on Arsenal. He used to be on.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I must admit, it's a bit like Star Wars. That's a name I've not heard for a long time. I mean, there's certain people I get. You know, I don't really spend a lot of time on social media, but you log on YouTube and you do get shorts and stuff. All I ever really seem to get served. This is an interesting topic. When you log onto YouTube, what do you get served in a football sense? Because I haven't had any. Thogden may as well have retired. I've never seen a Thogden recommendation in about 3 years.
No,
all I ever seem to get is videos of how True Geordie and Loz got shat on by the snakes at the club. I've not even thought about that. Well, I think about it on a daily basis because that's all I get served. Yeah, it's always clips of that. And I do watch it, to be fair. I
get served 2 videos I get shown them. Let's finish my Lee thing. I'll tell you so with Lee's channel is going to get views no matter what he's doing, and his personal channel is. So I ain't speaking about Lee. Lee has 150,000 subscribers, something along those lines. He is going to be absolutely fine. So look, from my point of view, no, this is what people do as well. I didn't want to get into the names because it creates things like this, but I thought I would address it because it's not about that for me. I need to get comments like this. AFTV are now a positive channel with affiliation to Arsenal. But again, this is another one of those lies that people create online.
They're definitely not affiliated to Arsenal. I know that.
They're just not. And people the people that push these lies are Arsenal fans who have their own Arsenal channels who are just jealous of what AFTV are doing. You see this all the time. Like the amount of lies.
Arsenal have never given the steam off their piss to Robbie, so I know for a fact there's no affiliation there.
I agree, but it's little things. I mean, I get about the other day. I got the weirdest. I get a lot of these things. Terry, you buy bots, you buy bots, you buy bots, and I'm just like, part of me feels like just pretending that I do and go, yeah, I do. So what? So what? But the weirdest one I got the other day was your channel needs to be shut down because you're advertising fake football shirt sales. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, who spread this rumor? Supposedly I own like multiple people's YouTube channels, and I'm not averse to, I'll be very honest, I've had conversations in the last few weeks about potentially buying into some people's channels and investing in them and helping them grow and bringing them in. But if I owned part of someone's channel, I'd just admit it. I don't look at these things as weird, but yes, the rumors that get spread are crazy. And one about AFTB and associated to Arsenal is mad, absolutely mad on every single level. But what I get served up the most on YouTube, Mark, is 2 different videos. I've never watched either because I'm actually not interested. One of them is, why did all these people leave the United stand? And it has pictures of Rance and Saeed and Adam. And the other one is a clip of Adam talking about why he left. I've never clicked on them once. And this isn't a dig at them. This isn't supporting you. It's just whether it's true or false what they're saying. I
very much doubt it would be true because it'd be too fucking boring for a YouTube video. God knows what's been said.
I am absolutely not interested in people airing their dirty linen in public. A lot of people have said to me, "Oh, why do you think Turkish left AFTV?" Don't care. Why do you think James left AFTV?
Turkish left AFTV. When?
I don't care about these things. I find it, and that's another thing. There's some YouTubers, their whole shtick is the beef and the drama. Oh, Terry, this guy said this about you. Oh, was it about my football opinion or about me? I was about you. Don't care then. Why don't you care? Unless you're doing something that's going to damage my life, I don't care. I'm just not interested in any of that type of thing whatsoever. It just doesn't. It's just not in my wheelhouse anymore.
I think what I found is, because remember you had that. What was his name? John Potts. Dan Potts.
Dan Potts.
Yeah, I said something, didn't I, about him last year, and then it all kicked off. And I genuinely didn't know who he was, but it was like the offense of, he does know who I am. He does know who I am. And I think, look, I think it's easy to get trapped in that world where you spend a lot of time on social media, so therefore you see a lot of things. And I know Robbie's the same, and I think you're probably the same. I got to a point where I found it was bad for my mental health to be on social media reading everything. So I don't see these clips before you do it. I plan my own shows. I don't really spend a lot of time on social media anymore. So I definitely haven't seen Lee Gunner for 18 months. I didn't even know. Someone just said Troops. I didn't even know he was doing stuff still. I don't know who these people are, but I think they think everybody is watching everything because they're probably still in the early throes of building their careers, which is what I used to do. So I think that's what it is sometimes. I think they just assume that, you're watching all their content and this, that, and the other. And, I just think fair play to anybody who does it. But ultimately, going back to what we were saying before, I don't give advice to anybody because you've got to have your own voice. I think too many people copy everybody else. But one bit of advice I would give to anybody is remember why you love football. When you're getting angry and frustrated, you're probably right. But ultimately, I ain't got no problem if Man United go to Spurs on Saturday, get absolutely battered. Spurs play the best football they've ever played. We get a dodgy penalty and win 1-0. I will be there on Saturday afternoon going, get the fuck in. I don't care. Because I remember us doing it against Arsenal a few years ago, and De Gea was just unbelievable. And I think it was I remember putting all the AFTV videos on, and they were like, it's illegal. You shouldn't be able to win a game like that. David De Gea has just blocked everything. He saved everything. We any other day we could have won that 9-0, and I'm like, you didn't. We did. See you later. Mine's a pint, and that's the great thing.
But I also like when that's how rivals should feel after a game. That's why I feel that the way someone reacts on an instant match reaction should sound different to how they talk about the game 3 or 4 days later when you've calmed down. And look, I think fans are entitled to have their own opinions on football. The one thing I do find strange is when people look angry that their team has won. That's the one thing that's always thrown me. But equally, they're entitled to have that opinion. They're entitled to have that view. And a few people saying that AFTV used to be more negative. Yes, AFTV was more negative when Arsenal was shit.
Yeah, they're not shit anymore, are they? You can't stand outside Arsenal shouting.
Exactly, and that's the bit I don't understand. Again, and one thing I always push back on when it comes to Arsenal is people doing up this sort of nothing's really changed. Loads has changed since the Wenger out days, and I'm not an Arsenal fan, and I can see that you're in a much better position overall than you were. So therefore, I find it strange that people are as angry as they were then now as they were then. And I think speaking about that's there. But to your original point, will some Arsenal fans be gutted on if they win the league on a business sense? Yes. And business is one of those things. Business changes how you view your own football team. And we know that because football players change their allegiance when they start playing for other teams. And that's because it's business, it's professional. When something becomes how you make your money, people do it. Now, people can throw that at me. I'll tell you, you've become more unbiased and you glaze other teams because it's what your business does. And like, I made a conscious decision to start a channel that speaks about other football clubs. I pushed as hard as I could to be as unbiased as possible. I don't always succeed in it. And the Football Terrace does well. It has changed our look at football to a certain degree. Sometimes I do sit there and go, when a certain team scores, Chelsea get that Chelsea get a last minute winner against Liverpool. I probably feel a little differently about that now to how I did 15 years ago, because now I go, this is going to be a great show. The reactions are going to be hilarious now. I do think about it from that point of view because that's something I do. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's just about admitting it. I always want Liverpool to lose, but sometimes it's just, I remember the Brentford versus Arsenal opening game of the season 4 or 5 years ago. I remember when Brentford got their second goal. I wasn't laughing because I was happy Arsenal lost. I was like, I knew what panelists I had coming on, but my show is going to be crazy. So it's just, and that's a normal thing, but that's just me. And at least I'll admit to it because I think all content creators feel the same. When certain things happen, we go, this will be something great to talk about. This will be good content. And why wouldn't we think that? It's what we do. It's our job. It'd be weird to go, I don't ever think about the content when I'm watching football. Of course you do. You have to. It's your job.
I've got to shoot because I've got a meeting at 12:30. But there's just a comment here that just jumped out at me. JJ says, you don't know who these people are. You're too big and you apparently mind your own business. What a load of bullshit. I will just come back to that because I didn't say I was too big. I never said that. And this is the problem. People take things out of context. What I said is, I don't know who these people are because I don't spend time on YouTube. And as I said, when I go on YouTube, it's to set my own stream up. And I laugh at what I get served, which is True Geordie being stabbed in the back by the club and their snakes and stuff like that, which I haven't searched or looked for in, ever. So it's weird what you get served up. I don't have the time to go and watch other YouTubers. I don't. And I also don't have the desire. So how would I know who a lot of these people are? Now, if they know who I am, maybe they're watching my content. Great. A lot of people do. It's not arrogance. It's not being too big. It's my way of being 10 years in this business and changing about 3 years ago to deal with the pressure of working in this business, whereby a lot of people say a lot of bad stuff about you. And being on social media, I don't find is very good for my mental health. So I don't know who these people are. And maybe they're people that don't know who I am. Great. Maybe they're people that do know who I am. Maybe they've got good content. Maybe they've got shit content. Maybe they've copied what I've done. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they're innovative. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's a detriment to me that I don't know who some of these people are. But who are we actually talking about, by the way? I don't know. Because the only person we've mentioned is this Lee Gunner guy, which sounds like, is an Arsenal fan, so why would I watch it anyway? I don't watch AFTV. So I don't really get what you're getting at, J Jash. What I was actually giving you insight in is I don't know a lot of content creators. I certainly don't know many TikTok ones because I don't go on it. And the reason I don't do it is because I found that I used to tweet and then read replies and it would make me depressed. And now I just tweet and don't read replies. And I actually don't even tweet that much anymore, to be honest. I've reduced it massively.
Post and ghost.
I think it's the best way to deal with it. It's why I'm still doing this, because I think if I'd carried on like I did for the first 4 years, I'd have burnt out 3 years ago because I was getting to the point where, I couldn't put my, I had to do it at the start. I think you had to be all or nothing at the start. Whereas now I just think you've been around the track a few times, you start to get into the same arguments, don't you? And actually, I'd rather just focus on, I've got a show at 8 o'clock. I've got to focus on that community and that show. And I'm all in when I'm doing content now. Whereas I think before I was all in around it and that affected my mood. And it's like Sunday, I don't do social media because it's toxic. People have got work tomorrow they don't want to do. They're hungover. They've got school tomorrow they don't want to do. A lot of people are in a very bad mood on a Sunday. And I just realized, don't get involved in stuff. And I have a good Sunday now.
Mate, I hear 100%. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. To all of our viewers, thank you for tuning in. We're back live at 3:15 today for Straight Facts. So it'd be great to see you all back here. We've got a really good panel for you. United stand at 2 p.m. Make sure you are there. I assume what time are you getting live tonight? Because the Champions League starts early.
Yeah, United stand at 7 for me and then straight on your own to the Champions League. Good night tonight, yeah.
There we go. So make sure you're checking out both those channels as well. Until next time, people, take care of yourselves. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very